Vedant here from Global Kid Media. Introduce yourself to everyone.
Well, I'm Tony Dungy, and I'm excited to be with you in Global Kid Media. I've heard so much about it. Thank you for having me.
Hey, it's an honor to have you here on Global Kid Media. First of all, here at the Pro Football Hall of Fame in Canton, Ohio, how exciting is it to be here? You're obviously a member of the Hall of Fame, now here to support some of your guys.
It is very special. It's always a great weekend. This is my fifth year that I've been in, so it's neat to be in as a member, but it's an awful special weekend for me because I have four former players who are going in this evening, and two guys that I coached in Indianapolis, Peyton Manning and Edgerrin James, and then John Lynch, who played for me in Tampa, and Donnie Shell, who was my roommate for a year when we were both players, and then I coached him for several years in Pittsburgh. So to have four players go in at one time is pretty awesome.
I'd imagine it's really special. You have that family type of bond. But speaking of family, you've raised a lot of kids and you've won 2 Super Bowls. You seem to be pretty good at everything. How have you balanced the family, the football, and now the broadcasting all together?
Well, I think God wants us to do that. He wants us to work hard and be the best we can be at our profession, but not separate that from our personal life and private life. And I learned that from the best. Chuck Noll was my coach with the Steelers, and he always talked about having balance and making sure your family was such an important part of what you did. So, in spite of the fact that I coached 28 years, I was able to, I think, do that pretty well and keep things in focus that didn't go overboard and let the job consume me. But I tried to make time for the family too, and we do. With 11 kids, it was a challenge, but it was a fun challenge.
Absolutely. You know, you're from Michigan. We were talking a little bit earlier about the small world it is, seeing so many people from the Michigan area. Can you talk about, you go from Jackson, Michigan to the NFL to then coaching in the NFL. Every step on that journey, how did things change?
Well, growing up, it was a great environment for me. I wouldn't change it for anything in the world. Small town upbringing, uh, Christian parents who tried to direct me in the right way, and I had some great coaches in high school that helped me become a better player, but be a better person. Was blessed to go to the University of Minnesota on a scholarship. Went to there feeling like, hey, I'll get my degree, things will work out, and I'll go from there. Never really dreaming of playing professional football at the time, but I got the chance to go to Pittsburgh. Went to the Steelers, won a Super Bowl my second year as a player, and was on cloud nine in a great city that embraced their team and with great fans. So it was a special time, but Coach Noll always warned us: don't take that for granted. Don't think that's your whole life. Don't make football your whole life. My fourth year, I ended up getting traded a couple of times, finally getting released, and I had to figure out what I was going to do with my life. And I had the opportunity to go back into the Steelers organization as an assistant coach. And for 28 years, then it was moving job to job and learning and finding out, how you could help people and how I could be a better coach. So the National Football League was a big part of my life, but also I think the places that I went, Pittsburgh and Kansas City, Minneapolis, Tampa, Indianapolis, just had some great stops along the way and a lot of great people.
100%. Yeah, you played quarterback, I played quarterback, and eventually transitioned to the cornerback side of things. How easy or how tough was that transition moving to the pros and having to switch positions?
It was a little tough for me because I had never really played defense before, and learning the fundamentals, learning how to do it at such a high level was difficult. But I had some great teachers and great teammates to learn from, and it ended up benefiting me in the long run. I always say God has a great plan. The fact that I was an offensive player most of my life, I had to learn how to play defense. I ended up playing for a championship team in Pittsburgh. I got traded to the San Francisco 49ers, who at that time were struggling and building under Bill Walsh. So I learned and saw a rebuilding franchise, um, and all that experience came back to help me later on when I was coaching, and it was great. But to making that transition, um, there were days when I was saying, "Gosh, I'm not going to make this team. I can't even make a tackle."
Right, sitting in the hotel room waiting for that call, and then eventually waiting for that knock, and
Yeah.
that definitely happened. You're the last player to throw an interception and catch an interception in the same game. I know that was a tough situation, having to come in, both guys go down, but how cool is that to still redeem yourself?
Well, it's funny. Every year we kind of relive it here. The Elvin Bethea is a great defensive end for the Houston Oilers. He's in the Hall of Fame, and he actually injured both of our quarterbacks that game. So I tell him he got my 15 minutes of fame for me, and I was the emergency quarterback and played that game. But I tell you what, it was a thrill for me to go into the huddle, and I'm taking snaps from Mike Webster, who was the best center in football. I'm handing off balls to Franco Harris and Rocky Blyer and throwing passes to Lynn Swan and John Stallworth, and you say, how does this happen? But it was. I wish we'd have won the game. We didn't, but it was a fun time for me. And as you say, the last person to throw an interception and intercept the ball in the same game.
This guy.
Yeah, almost 40 years ago. Yeah.
I got to ask about NBC now. Obviously, you do some great coverage there, and I've talked to a few of your colleagues, Mrs. Michelle Tafoya, Mr. Fred Godelli, Jack Collinsworth. Still hoping to get Mr. Chris Collinsworth and Mr. Al Michaels on the show, but talk about how special that team is.
We've got a great family there, and that's the thing I love about NBC. It is a family atmosphere. Al and Chris have been doing the games since I've been there 13 years now. Rodney Harris and I have been on the pregame show for 13 years together. Mike Tirico came with us 4 years ago, and we've got that kind of bond because we stay together. I love it. I enjoy the fact that they don't tell us that we have to be critical. We don't have to have a gimmick or criticize people. We can just try to educate the fans, and it's been good. I've enjoyed it.
Yeah, one of my goals is to start a kid content division where maybe we have a segment where we go to kids, and I'd be happy to run that. So that's something. What do you think of that idea?
It's a good idea. We may have to look you up for the Super Bowl. My son Justin, the last time we had the Super Bowl when Philadelphia beat New England, Justin was 11 and he got to be the kid reporter at the Super Bowl. He was there all week doing interviews and things similar to what you do. He had a great time. So if we have that segment in again this Super Bowl, I have to recommend you.
Absolutely, I appreciate that. And Justin's the guy who, of course, was big advocate for you guys to go to that Super Bowl where eventually you did get that knock. What can you say about him and all your kids? Like I said, I've had Eric on the show. He was awesome, and you've raised some spectacular children.
Well, they're special, and I love them and appreciate them. And Justin was the one I had been up for the Hall of Fame 2 times as a semifinalist and hadn't made it. And he kept saying in 2016, "This is your year. You're going to make it. I want to go." And I didn't want him to go and be disappointed. And so I was saying, "No, I don't think so." But he was adamant about it. So we went, and sure enough, he was right. We got the knock on the door, and he got to experience it. It was really neat.
And my last question here is about Peyton Manning. How special is it to see your guy, really all your guys again, get in there? What advice did you give them, by the way, about the speech? I know you're a natural speaker, but what advice do you give to other guys about it?
I don't know how they're going to do the speech. They gave us 15 minutes, and it was hard to thank everyone and do what you needed to do in 15 because they have so many guys going in a double class in 2 years. They've limited them to 6 minutes. I don't know how in the world, but Peyton, I tell you what, he is so organized and so detailed and disciplined. He'll do it. He'll have the speech right to 6 minutes, and he'll do great. But he's fantastic. He was a great leader for us, a great teammate. He was a joy to coach, and one of the hardest working players that I've ever been around. So people ask me all the time, what's the secret to his success? Yes, he was talented. Yes, he grew up in a football family. He was around it. Yes, he's very smart, but that work ethic was fantastic for him, and that's what set him apart from, I think, anybody, just that hard work and dedication.
I love hearing the stories about the Sunday family nights you'd have at the Colts and then him transforming that to Denver. That's really amazing. So I do this segment with all my guests. It's called Flip the Switch. It's a signature global comedian. I have the person I'm talking to asking me a few questions. So I'll have you put on the broadcasting cap.
Right.
And
Well, my first question would be, what got you interested in the media, and how did your development start?
yeah, well, I always wanted to show millions of kids that they could do things at a young age, that they didn't have to wait till they were 20, 30 to do what they loved. And I said, why don't I be an example for that? I thought it might be through speaking, public speaking. That's really how I got started with speech competitions against kids double my age. And I wanted to prove that, look, I can do this young too. And one opportunity came up to actually talk to your friend, Coach Tom Izzo, at an NCAA tournament. And it was awesome. And I was actually applying for an organization. I got declined, but I realized I could start my own organization and go from there. So here we are, 1,500 celebrity interviews later.
Well, 1,500, that brings me to my last two questions. What are your goals now? What would you like to see this go in the future?
Yeah, people always ask, do you see yourself as a reporter forever? And who knows where things go? I don't think so. I kind of want to grow this to the business side of things, get other kids involved. And, I'm writing a book right now. You're obviously a very, very good author and hoping to get that published soon in the next couple of weeks. And then I want to start NFTs. I want to grow merch. So there's a lot of different avenues I want to go down. And who knows at the end of the day where I end up.
All right, well, good luck. Now, my last question is, out of those 1,500 or so, who's been the most interesting interview you've had?
Most interesting. That's a great question. So I would say, for one, I was at the ESPYs about a month ago there, and one of the honorees there was Chris Nikic, who is someone who did the Ironman triathlon, something that a lot of people can't do, and the first person with Down syndrome to do so. And hearing his energy, hearing his passion, I say, yeah, we talk to the big names all the time, but sometimes hearing from someone who's had to go through a lot, that story's priceless. I will always say, Patrick Mahomes is a cool story to hear on the football side of things, Magic Johnson on the basketball side of things. So there's a lot of people.
That's great. Well, congratulations, good luck, and I hope that it really takes off and pans out the way you'd like it.
Well, you heard it from a Hall of Famer. Enjoy the ceremony, and congratulations on your great work.